Ladies and gentlemen, if there's one thing I've learned in all my years speaking to people from all walks of life, executives, students, dreamers, doers, it's this: small hinges swing big doors. You don't need to overhaul your entire life to create change. Sometimes, all it takes is one habit, and tonight, I want to share with you the one habit that, if you adopt it, will change your life overnight. Now, I know that's a bold claim, but stay with me. Small hinges swing big doors. It's a simple phrase, but don't let the simplicity fool you. Within those 6 words is one of the most powerful truths about personal growth, success, and the way the world really works. You see, most people think change requires something dramatic. They believe the only way to create a breakthrough is with some massive shift, quitting a job, moving to another country, starting over from scratch. And while those things can bring change, they're not where lasting success is built. Big doors don't swing on big mechanisms. They swing on small, well-placed hinges. Think about it. In architecture, a huge, heavy, steel-reinforced door, let's say the kind that guards a bank vault, doesn't move because of a crane or a pulley system. It moves smoothly and reliably because of 2 or 3 small hinges, aligned just right. The weight of the door isn't a problem if the hinges are strong and properly installed. That's the metaphor. In life, your habits, your choices, your routines, those are the hinges. And when the right ones are installed, even the heaviest doors begin to open. But the problem is, most people are looking for the door. They're standing in front of it, pushing, pulling, trying to force it open. Some scream at it, some pray it opens, some give up and walk away. But very few step back and ask, where are the hinges? And fewer still ask, what's one small thing I can do each day to make this door swing? That's where the secret lies. Let me give you an example. Say someone wants to improve their finances. They're tired of living paycheck to paycheck. They want freedom. They want options. So what do? Most go big. They try to start a business overnight. They invest in something they don't understand. They take on too much risk, too fast. But what if instead they built a small hinge? A simple daily habit like tracking expenses. Not glamorous, not exciting, but powerful, because awareness creates control. Control creates discipline, and discipline creates results. Or think of relationships. Someone wants to fix their marriage, reconnect with their child, or become a better communicator. Again, most people think they need a long vacation, or a deep conversation under the stars, or some grand apology. Maybe those help, but the real change, it's in the small things. A daily "How was your day?" A 5-minute check-in. A sincere compliment. These are small hinges, but over time, they swing open doors of trust, closeness, and love. You can apply this to your health, your career, your mindset. The gym membership doesn't change your body. The habit of showing up for 20 minutes a day does. Reading 1 page each morning doesn't make you a genius, but do that for a year, and you've read over 300 pages of something valuable. A quick review of your goals before bed doesn't make you a millionaire, but it aligns your mind with purpose, and purpose attracts opportunity. Small hinges swing big doors. Now, let's look at the psychology of it. Why do small changes work so well? First, they bypass resistance. If you tell your mind, we're going to change everything today, it resists, it gets scared, it talks you out of it. But if you say, we're just going to do this *1 small thing, the mind says, okay, we can handle that. And once it sees results, even small ones, it gets on board. Motivation builds, confidence grows, and suddenly, the door starts to creak open. Second, small hinges create momentum. Once a door starts to move, it's easier to keep it moving. The hard part is the start. That's where most people fail. But small hinges, habits, choices, thoughts give you a way in, a way to begin, and that's everything. The first inch is the hardest, but once you're in motion, momentum takes over. Third, small changes compound. You don't notice it right away, and that's why they're often ignored. But over weeks and months, those tiny actions stack up. A small hinge today might not show you a difference by tomorrow, but give it 90 days, and you'll look back and say, I can't believe how far I've come. Time multiplies effort. It rewards consistency. It amplifies discipline. That's why small hinges don't just open doors. They keep them open. Now you might ask, which hinges should I install? That's personal. It depends on your goals, but the key is to start somewhere. Pick one habit, one daily action, one thought you want to replace. Don't try to fix everything. Just install a hinge where it matters. Life has a funny way of rewarding those who take small steps in the right direction. The world won't always reward you immediately, but trust me, it notices. Life keeps score, quietly, silently, but it does. And every time you choose discipline over distraction, every time you show up instead of skipping out, every time you reflect instead of react, you're installing hinges. You're preparing that big door to swing. One habit can create overnight change. Now, when most people hear that, their first reaction is skepticism. One habit, that's it, just one. But the truth is, transformation doesn't require complexity. It requires consistency. Most people are so busy chasing the next big thing that they overlook the power of doing one small thing differently, starting today. And if the habit is the right one, if it's chosen with intention, it acts like a spark. It doesn't just affect one area of your life, it spreads. It creates ripples. It sets off a chain reaction. Let's consider what a habit really is. A habit is a decision made once, then repeated without effort. It's a behavior that becomes automatic. You don't have to think about brushing your teeth in the morning. You just do it. You don't have to convince yourself to put on your seatbelt. It happens naturally. Now, that same principle can be applied to life-changing behavior. If you choose a habit that moves you forward, and you repeat it consistently, you're not just acting on it, you're becoming the kind of person who lives that way. That's why one habit can change everything. It's not just about what the habit does. It's about what it represents. When you build a habit, you're not just doing something new. You're casting a vote for a new identity. Let's say you decide to wake up 30 minutes earlier each day. That's the habit, simple. But what it signals to your mind is, I'm someone who takes charge of my time. I'm in control of my morning. I start the day with intention. That kind of mental shift changes the way you carry yourself. It affects how you speak, how you plan, how you deal with stress. One habit, when aligned with your values, has the power to rewrite your story. The key is to choose a habit that touches multiple areas of your life. Something that seems small on the surface but influences how you think, how you feel, and how you act. Take journaling for 5 minutes every night. On the surface, it's simple, but what does it lead to? It creates clarity. It helps you process emotions. It tracks your progress. It gives you perspective. That 5-minute habit can lead to better decision making, improved emotional control, stronger motivation, and deeper self-awareness. That's the kind of domino you're looking for. Or take the habit of reading 10 pages of a good book every day. 10 pages won't change your life today, but if you choose the right books on mindset, business, health, communication, then in a month you've read a full book. In a year 12, that habit alone could raise your thinking, improve your vocabulary, increase your knowledge, sharpen your focus. One habit, one small input, a massive compound result. The beauty of a single habit is that it simplifies the process. It strips away the noise. Instead of trying to change 5 things at once, or building a perfect routine with 30 moving parts, you zero in on one asterisk, and that focus creates power. Because when you focus on one thing, you remove the friction of choice. You don't have to wake up and ask yourself, where do I start? You already know. The habit leads the way. Another thing people underestimate is the confidence that comes from keeping a promise to yourself. When you say, I'm going to do this one thing, and then you follow through day after day, you begin to trust yourself, and that trust becomes the foundation for everything else. Confidence isn't built by shouting affirmations in the mirror. It's built by taking action, however small, and proving to yourself that you're the kind of person who follows through. One habit, done consistently, becomes a personal contract with yourself, a daily reminder that you are capable of change. And we need that reminder, because life will test you, distractions will show up, doubts will whisper in your ear. Some days you'll feel tired, discouraged, overwhelmed, but the habit keeps you anchored. It's the one thing you do no matter what, rain or shine, high or low. It becomes your foundation, and from that foundation, you can build anything. One habit can act like a lever. With enough consistency and the right direction, it can lift results in your career, relationships, health, mindset, even your finances. And the change can feel overnight not because everything changes in 24 hours, but because one morning, after doing this habit for a week, a month, a season, you wake up different. You feel the shift. Your energy is sharper, your thoughts are clearer, you speak with conviction, you walk into rooms with a little more presence, you respond instead of react, you stop breaking promises to yourself, and from that place, everything else starts to align. Take 15 minutes each night to reflect. Just 15, not an hour, not a weekend getaway, not a life coach. Just a quiet moment between you and yourself. That small window of time, if practiced with intention and honesty, holds the power to shift the entire direction of your life. Because while the world moves fast, emails, meetings, news, deadlines, distractions, wisdom moves slowly, and you can only hear it when you slow down long enough to listen. Reflection is not about dwelling or regretting. It's not about beating yourself up for mistakes or romanticizing your victories. It's about understanding. You pause the noise, look back at your day, and ask yourself some simple questions. What did I learn today? Where did I grow? Where did I hold back? What could I have done differently? What did I do well? These questions don't require a journal full of answers. Sometimes all it takes is a single sentence, a moment of clarity, a realization that sticks. Most people live in a blur. They move from one day to the next without taking inventory. They repeat the same actions, make the same choices, feel the same frustrations, and wonder why nothing changes. But when you reflect, you start to see patterns. You recognize what lifts you up and what drains you. You notice which habits move you forward and which ones pull you back. That awareness is the beginning of change. You can't change what you don't understand, and you won't understand what you never stop to examine. 15 minutes at night isn't about time. It's about attention. It's about shifting your focus from external demands to internal guidance. During the day, your attention is everywhere. Your job, your phone, your family, the headlines. But when the day winds down, that's your chance to come home to yourself. It's when you check the compass, not just the clock. Because it's possible to be busy all day and still be lost. But if you pause, if you reflect, you give yourself a chance to correct the course before you drift too far. In those 15 minutes, you're not just reflecting on what you did, you're reinforcing who you want to become. You might notice you were impatient in a meeting. You don't judge it. You learn from it. You ask why. Was it stress, fatigue, ego? Then you think, how can I handle it differently next time? That kind of mental rehearsal builds strength. It trains your character. It sharpens your awareness. And over time, you don't just react less. You lead yourself better. Some people wait for a crisis to reflect. They wait until the relationship breaks, the health fails, the opportunity disappears. But you don't have to wait. You can lead yourself before life forces you to. And leadership begins with reflection. CEOs take time to review their business daily, weekly, quarterly. Athletes watch game footage to improve performance. Investors study the market before making moves. But how many people study themselves? How many sit quietly and ask, what's working in my life, and what isn't? Reflection is also how you protect your progress. You might have read a great book, attended a powerful seminar, set new goals, but without reflection, those insights fade. The world moves fast, and without anchoring those lessons, you lose them. But when you reflect, you capture the lesson. You seal it. You take that good idea and make it useful. You turn inspiration into direction, and direction, repeated daily, becomes destiny. Another reason this habit works is that it creates closure. Too many people carry their stress into sleep. They lie down, but their mind is still running, replaying conversations, worrying about tomorrow, regretting today. But if you take 15 minutes to unload the mind, process the day, and bring a sense of understanding to your experiences, you sleep lighter, you rest deeper, and you wake up with more clarity, not chaos. And you don't need anything fancy to do it. You don't need a special notebook, or a meditation app, or a perfect ritual. You just need honesty. Maybe you sit in your favorite chair. Maybe you write a few bullet points. Maybe you talk it out loud. The form doesn't matter. The intention does. The point is to face the day with eyes open before it fades into memory, because the lessons you don't learn get repeated, and the emotions you don't understand get recycled. This habit also creates a buffer between you and the rest of the world. In a time when everyone is reacting to everything instantly, you become someone who responds with thought. You become less impulsive, more deliberate. Less fragile, more grounded. And that strength is noticeable. People feel it in the way you speak, the way you listen, the way you carry yourself. It creates a kind of quiet confidence, not loud, not arrogant, but certain. It says, I know who I am, I know what I'm working on, I've looked at myself and I've chosen my path. Activity is not the same as achievement. One of the most deceptive traps in life is the belief that being busy means being productive. That if you're in motion, you must be making progress. But motion doesn't guarantee movement in the right direction. A rocking chair is in motion all day, but it doesn't go anywhere. That's what a lot of people's lives look like. Constant activity with very little advancement. And the tragedy is that they confuse exhaustion with excellence. They think that being tired at the end of the day means they've done something meaningful, but all it often means is they've been chasing noise instead of purpose. We live in a world that glorifies hustle. Busy has become a badge of honor. When someone asks how you're doing and you say, I'm swamped, they almost admire you. It sounds important, like you're in demand. But being swamped isn't a goal, it's a symptom. A symptom of being overcommitted, of lacking clear priorities, of running your life by reaction instead of intention. The real question is not how busy you are, but what your busyness is producing. Are your actions aligned with your goals, or are they just keeping you occupied? The difference between activity and achievement comes down to intention. Achievement starts with a clear picture of what matters most. It's rooted in purpose. It asks, what is the outcome I want to create? And then works backward to design the actions that support it. Activity, on the other hand, is often reactive. It's driven by urgency, by distraction, by what shows up in the inbox or on the calendar. It feels productive in the moment, but it rarely leads to anything lasting. It's like digging 1,000 shallow holes and wondering why there's no well. One of the clearest signs that someone is stuck in activity over achievement is that they're always busy, but their life doesn't really change. They attend every meeting, answer every message, juggle a dozen tasks, but their goals remain unmet. Their health is still a problem. Their relationships still lack depth. Their dreams stay on paper. That's not a time problem. That's a focus problem. It's not about doing more, it's about doing what matters. Some people spend their whole lives mastering the art of staying busy. They organize, they schedule, they respond to everything instantly. But the truth is, activity without direction is just well-managed chaos. It looks impressive, it feels urgent, but it doesn't fulfill, because deep down, the human spirit doesn't crave motion. It craves meaning. It doesn't want a full calendar, it wants a full life, and those are two very different things. The most effective people in the world are not the busiest. They're not the ones answering every email at midnight or attending every meeting. They're the ones who know what to ignore. They're the ones who say no to noise so they can say yes to progress. They understand that every task, every conversation, every project must earn its place on the agenda. They don't confuse movement with momentum. They measure their days not by how much they did, but by how much of it mattered. Achievement requires clarity. You need to know what you're aiming for before you can know whether you're hitting the mark. That's why reflection, planning, and prioritization are not luxuries. They are necessities. You can't build a meaningful life on autopilot. You have to stop, look up from the to-do list, and ask yourself, is what I'm doing today moving me toward the life I want tomorrow? This mindset is especially important in a culture that is addicted to speed. Faster emails, faster decisions, faster results. But speed is only an asset when you're heading in the right direction. Otherwise, it just means you crash faster. Taking time to think is not a weakness, it's wisdom. It's how you make sure that your ladder is leaning against the right wall before you climb it. When you shift from activity to achievement, your schedule might look emptier to others, but your life becomes fuller. You stop chasing every opportunity and start creating the ones that matter. You stop trying to do everything and start focusing on the few things that make a real difference. And in doing so, you gain something rare in today's world, peace of mind. Not because you did everything, but because you did the right things. The truth is, achievement is quieter than activity. It doesn't always look impressive from the outside. There's less noise, less frantic energy. But there's more purpose, more depth, more results. You begin to see your work pay off, not just in numbers, but in the quality of your life. Because when you focus on achievement, you're not just busy living, you're building something that lasts. Motion without meaning leads to burnout. There's a kind of fatigue that sleep can't fix, and it doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from doing too much of the wrong thing. People assume burnout is about hours, workload, or pressure, but more often it's about misalignment. It's about running fast in a direction that doesn't match your values, your goals, or your purpose. You can be busy every hour of the day and still feel empty. You can check every box and still wonder why it doesn't feel right. That's what happens when your motion lacks meaning. We live in a world obsessed with action. Take massive action is the mantra of the age. Move fast, push harder, stay ahead, but without meaning behind that motion, it becomes mechanical. You start to operate like a machine, efficient, reliable, exhausted. You get things done, but it doesn't feel good. You hit your targets, but they don't satisfy. And eventually, even small tasks feel heavy, because your soul knows you're off course. Meaning is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It's the fuel that keeps motion sustainable. When you move with meaning, you're not just doing, you're becoming. Each action is tied to a larger purpose. You know why you're working late, why you're saying no to distractions, why you're showing up even when it's hard. That kind of clarity creates energy. It brings life to your steps. But when that meaning is missing, even simple tasks become draining. The mind becomes cluttered, the body tenses up, and the spirit begins to shut down. That's the slow leak that leads to burnout. A lot of people are doing the right things for the wrong reasons. They go to work, but only for the paycheck. They exercise, but only out of guilt. They build businesses, but only to prove something to someone who's not even watching. That kind of motivation burns out fast. It's like sprinting on fumes. You can only go so far before the engine gives out. Real endurance comes from a deeper place. It comes from being rooted in something bigger than the task, something that matters to you. This is why alignment matters more than ambition. Ambition says, climb the ladder. Alignment asks, is the ladder on the right wall? Without that question, you can spend your life climbing, only to realize the view from the top means nothing to you. And by the time you get there, you're too tired to go back down. That's the danger of motion without meaning. It can be productive and purposeless at the same time. You end up successful by the world's standards, but unfulfilled by your own. There's a subtle pressure today to always be doing. Scroll any social feed, and you'll see someone working harder, building faster, chasing more. It creates a quiet panic, like you're falling behind. But what if you're only behind on someone else's path? What if your next step isn't forward at all, but inward? That pause, that stillness, that space to ask, why am I doing this? That's not laziness. That's leadership. That's how you find your center again. Meaning isn't something you find by accident. It's something you create through intention. It comes from asking better questions. Not just what should I do today, but what kind of life am I building? And not just what am I chasing, but what do I value? Those answers guide your motion. They turn routine into ritual. They turn work into contribution. They turn struggle into growth. And with that kind of meaning, you don't just avoid burnout. You build something worth burning for. Even in the toughest seasons, when things feel overwhelming, meaning gives your struggle shape. You might still feel tired, but it's the good kind of tired. The kind that says you're doing something worthwhile. The kind that comes from carrying weight that matters. It's the difference between fatigue and fulfillment. One drains you, the other grows you. And the only thing separating the two is whether your motion is connected to a reason that lights you up inside. Some people are addicted to movement because stillness feels uncomfortable. They fill their days with meetings, errands, distractions, not because it's effective, but because it keeps them from facing the silence. But silence is where meaning speaks. That's where the truth comes up. That's where you hear the small voice inside say, this isn't it, or you're meant for more. And that voice is worth listening to because it doesn't shout. It whispers, and if your life is too loud with meaningless motion, you'll miss it. You can't run your way into peace. You can't hustle your way into purpose that comes from alignment. From slowing down just long enough to make sure your next step is leading you in the direction you actually want to go. Because motion for motion's sake might keep you busy, might even make you look successful from the outside, but deep inside, you'll know something's missing. Discipline is the bridge between what you want and what you get. Most people don't fail because they lack desire. They fail because they lack discipline. They have dreams, they have goals, they talk a good game. But when it's time to show up, to do the work, to stay consistent when no one's watching, that's where the gap shows up. Discipline isn't flashy, it doesn't get applause, but it's the difference maker. It's the habit that turns potential into performance and ideas into outcomes. We live in a time where motivation gets all the attention. You see the videos, you hear the speeches, you scroll through the quotes. Motivation feels good in the moment, and it can light a spark, but discipline is what keeps the fire going long after the mood fades. You don't need to feel like it to do it. You don't need to wait for inspiration to act. Discipline shows up whether it's sunny or raining, whether it's day 1 or day 1000. It doesn't need a crowd. It doesn't ask for permission. It does the job. The reason discipline is so powerful is because it creates trust. Not trust with others, trust with yourself. When you say you're going to do something and you follow through, over and over, you start to believe in your own word. That belief is priceless. Most people don't trust themselves anymore because they've broken too many small promises. They said they'd start the diet, they didn't. They said they'd wake up early, they hit snooze. They said they'd finish the project, they let it drag on. Every time that happens, confidence takes a hit. But discipline rebuilds it. One small commitment kept daily is how you regain control of your life. Discipline is also the great equalizer. You don't need to be the smartest, the strongest, the fastest, or the most connected. If you're willing to be consistent, to keep showing up, to do the work even when no one's clapping, you can outlast and outperform people with more talent than you. Because talent fades without discipline. Intelligence is wasted without application, but steady effort, applied day after day, compounds in ways most people can't imagine. The world rewards those who keep going. Another truth about discipline is that it's not about perfection. It's about recovery. You will mess up, you will miss a day, you'll break the streak, but discipline doesn't collapse at the first setback. It says, "That's not who I am. I get back up." That mindset is what builds momentum. Because the longer you stay down, the harder it is to get up. But if you've built the habit of showing up no matter what, one bad day doesn't throw you off course. You bounce back, stronger and more focused than before. Discipline also simplifies your life. It removes the endless debate of choice. If your habit is to go to the gym every morning, you don't ask yourself whether you feel like it. You just go. If your habit is to write 500 words a day, you don't wait for the muse to show up. You sit down and write. That structure creates freedom. It gives you mental space to focus on the work instead of wasting energy on decisions that were already made. People think freedom is doing whatever you want, whenever you want. But real freedom comes from self-mastery, from being the kind of person who follows through. And let's be honest, discipline isn't always exciting. Sometimes it's boring. Sometimes it feels like you're not making progress. But the results aren't always immediate. They're often invisible at first. Like water dripping on stone, the impact builds over time. The disciplined life may not look dramatic, but it's deeply powerful. It builds character, it creates resilience, it shapes identity. Every time you do something hard when it would have been easier not to, you're becoming someone stronger. There's also peace in discipline. The peace of knowing you're not at the mercy of your moods. The peace of having a plan, a structure, a direction. Chaos fades when discipline enters, and that peace is worth more than any short-term comfort. Because the things that bring immediate pleasure often cost you long-term progress, but the things that require discipline often deliver lasting rewards. It's the price you pay up front, so you don't have to pay with regret later. People wait for the right time, the right mood, the right conditions, but discipline doesn't wait. It moves forward regardless. That's what makes it so powerful. It's independent of circumstances. It's not controlled by how you feel. It's guided by who you are. And when you live that way, you become unstoppable. You become the kind of person who doesn't need external pressure to perform. You live from the inside out, and that shift when discipline becomes your standard instead of your struggle. is when everything starts to change.